back to Bourbon Barrel Talk. I'm your host, Scott Minton. Today we are sitting down with a few of our buddies from the Bourbon Club. We're going to do a Starlight review, and we are in the space of the, I'm going to call it the she shed / garage / bourbon bunker for Mr. Nick Hayden. How we doing, Nick?
Yeah, we're doing well. It's we'll call it the bourbon bunker for now. It's
there we go.
I'm eager to try some of the Starlight. This is the new stuff, right?
This is these are the two newest releases they've done from the distillery themselves, and then along in the tasting today we've got Mr. Lee Gettings and Mr. Steven Scott. How we doing, fellas?
Pretty good.
Great. Good to be here.
Good. So people don't know, Steven the legend, Scott, and Lee usually be an F-bomb in the middle there, Gettings or something. So Baby Chugs, that's right, yeah. So anyway, we're going to try these, the VDN Rye whiskey, which we'll try that one first, go through some kind of tasting notes. Everybody can kind of tell me what they think and kind of go from there. And then the maple syrup finish will be the second one we'll try, and then we'll just kind of give any kind of finishing thoughts and go from there. So while I'm talking and kind of describing the bottle and things like that, if y'all want to try it, that way you all can kind of get your nose on it and all that good stuff, and we'll go from there. So the VDN barrel is it's kind of a red label. The VDN stands for Vino de Narange, which has something to do with macerated oranges finished in a white wine. So it should give it a little bit of a pop of a flavor with that orange flavor. And when I talked to Christian in the podcast, he mentioned that they thought that it would go really, really well with the fruit notes you get from a rye. So while I'm smelling it and trying it, I'll let one of you guys take the lead on what do you smell, what do you taste, what do you get from this one. So who wants to start? Nick? Are you ready yet?
Yeah, I'm ready to go. It looks like, just looking at it in the glens, you get this nice amber color, and then as you swirl it around, it has like this nice oily, the legs on this looks phenomenal. Going to the nose, you definitely pick up some of that citrus, but it's coupled, it's kind of hidden behind that spice that you would typically get with the rye. I haven't sipped it yet. I've been admiring just the oiliness of it. How old is this, Scott?
This was a blend of 4, 5, and 6-year-old bourbons, I think, or ryes is what Christian and I think Ted said. So I love the nose on this thing. It's very complex. I do like the citrus on it, but I also get some hints of different baking spices in the very, very background. Like I get a little bit of maybe nutmeg and a little bit of cinnamon, but
I think on the nose that right up front to me, I get some of the grains, but also I almost get like a caramelized citrus, which now that you kind of explain the background of it, it makes sense. And then I get some of that spice that moves to the front.
Yeah, definitely. So What about on taste there, Nick? Did you try it yet?
Yeah, it's really good. Like I said, it's not overwhelming with the heat or anything. You do get like this kind of like this orange curacao type of on the back end, but it also brings that the typical rice spice on that front end, which is really nice. It's a really good marriage of the two. It's really good.
Yeah, this one comes in at 109, so it's not like it's a heavy hitter, but for a rye, it to me it doesn't drink that hot. I mean, it still drinks pretty mild. But that orange does definitely give some heavy citrus, especially on the back in the finish. What do you think, Steve?
I think overall for me, a finished rye just far outweighs a finished bourbon. And this is a really nice taste. I love the orange. And I get some cinnamon brown sugar kind of taste.
Yeah.
But nice spice, not too hot, and it finishes well, lasts. I like the way it feels on my tongue and the back of my throat.
Yeah, that first bit that touches your tongue, it's got a pop. It's almost like a little tingle on the very front of your tongue when you first get it in there, and then after that, it kind of goes into that smooth, nice finish. Almost like it's not quite the Kentucky hug, but it's got some nice warmth as it go down.
Yeah, that's definitely that little bit of that rye bite. It starts with the orange and kind of the caramelized sugar flavors. And I almost pick up maybe in the nose. It's reminds me of like a graham cracker or something with like some sweetness in there.
Like one of those like honey grams like you get like in your like lunchbox, like those little teddy bear things.
I could actually see that a little bit the more you say about it. Like I said, I get the cinnamon, like almost like the honey cinnamon ones or something like that. Yeah.
And then it moves into that. Well, like you said, not necessarily the Kentucky hug, but it's got a nice warmth that kind of lingers, and there's almost.
It's a conservative Southern Indiana hug.
There you go, right there. Hey, we do have 3 of the 4 here.
We do have
Hoosiers.
3 Hoosiers. That's exactly right. So I think it also goes back to what Nick was saying. I mean, the oiliness of this, the thickness of this pour, it kind of leans to that. Anytime you drink something that has that much viscosity to it, it's going to, kind of coat the throat on the way back. So it's going to give you a little bit more, of that hug, I guess I'd say.
I was going to go off of Steven's point with these ryes. They always talk about cocktails and these ryes being able to hold up against like the sugars and stuff like that. Some of these finishes are just phenomenal that have come out recently with these ryes. So I'm almost wondering if it's holding its own. I'd love to see this in like an old fashioned. I mean, I bet one of those you could really tone down some of the bitters and bring that out with a nice cube, and a little simple syrup.
Absolutely, I 100% agree with that. The funny thing is they've got a honey finished rye coming out right now that is getting ready to hit the market. Luckily I think we just talked about it on the podcast, so I'm not letting anything out of the bag. But yeah, so they've got a lot of crazy cool things that are coming out up there. But yeah, I'm kind of anxious to see what that one's going to taste like. I know another distillery had just released the honey rye as well. So, or I guess I should say Bourbon Company. I don't think they technically distill yet, but we'll go from there.
Yeah. I get what you're throwing down.
You're picking up what I'm putting down?
I definitely like a good old-fashioned, but a lot of times that's usually if I just go out to a restaurant. So I haven't really, I usually just drink everything neat, maybe throw a cube in there occasionally, but I could definitely see this would be the hold up.
Yep. I'm going to get another bite of this one here.
Yeah. This one keeps coming. It wants you to come back for more. I mean, it lingers on that back of that palate down your throat. It's like not that burn like you say it is, but I mean, it's there. I mean, it's...
I think it's just enough that it's just wanting you to, hey, come back. Take another little swig.
And even the more you drink of it, it gets more complex. I mean, for me, this one, you bring out more of the fruit notes. And I think if you talk to Ted or Christian, especially, they really, really like to try to, when they make those cuts, to bring that's what they're really, really trying to do, is bring some of those fruity notes that rye have. To really bring those forward, and I think this orange really it brings a lot of that citrusness forward and gives it a little bit of opportunity. I probably should have tried it with a drop or two. I'm not really doing that, but I think whenever I'd tried this the first night I tried it, this is actually not my first time, as you can see from the bottle.
Well, Nick here just added a couple drops to it, and right on the nose, I think it brings up more of that floral.
Definitely.
So I thought I got a little honeysuckle, if I remember correctly, like a field of honeysuckle, like a little bit more floral, but sweet floral, not like medicinal floral. I feel like there's certain flowers that give off, a different type of like perfumey smell versus a sweet smell.
It's definitely sweet and kind of reminds you of a honeysuckle for sure.
And it changes the orange flavor. It diminishes the orange.
Yeah.
But it brings out some other.
I 100% agree with you on that one. I think it does. It kills the orange back a little bit.
Yeah, it brings out, I think, a little more of the floral. So I think it's we did about 3 drops, which drops at about 1 or 2 proof points according to my mathematical skills that I attempt to have. But it's but yeah, it almost that orange kind of dissipates a little bit, but then you get that floral note. So it definitely changes.
I think going back on the. From the nose, whenever I taste it, it brings almost more of that sweetness up front. It's floral, but then it moves into almost like a sweet dessert, kind of creme brulee maybe, or something like caramelized. And then the heat kind of obviously dissipates with the couple drops, but it's still
I felt like
good.
the rye popped a little bit more whenever I put water in it. Like I felt like it had a little bit more mouth heat, but not like it got smoother. But it had more mouth heat. Like I felt like I had more of a pop whenever I did it with water.
I'd agree with you on that one. That's a good analogy. I mean, it's good for sure. It's definitely good.
It's just great to just keep nosing it. I mean,
yeah, I the schnoff, as we would say for Jasnoff, he nosed this glass pretty hard the night that we were in there. And if anybody's seen Matt's nose, it's big nose. So he really rimmed his nose in that one pretty good. So while you guys are finishing talking about this one, I'm gonna go ahead and get started on this maple syrup and getting my nose on it and everything else. So Lee, preference, neat versus with a couple of drops, that type of thing. I'll let Nick go from there, and then Steven.
I think with me, I think I would have to go with it neat. I think I like that caramelized orange pill kind of up front, and in my opinion, I think it had more heat without the water. You know, compared to you guys said that it kind of you thought it brought the rye spice up after a couple drops, but both I think were good. But I would ultimately have to go with the neat.
Yeah, I'd have to definitely agree with you. I think neat is the way to go with this, especially if you want more of those citrus notes. And at 109 proof, it's not going to, knock you off your socks either. So I think the nice long finish coupled with that sweet spice of the rye and then that hint of that orange zest, I think it makes for a great neat pour. I'd still like to see it in a Manhattan or a old fashioned to see how it does. Like I said, those ryes always hold up good, but definitely neat for me.
Steven?
Same here. I drink basically everything neat.
Right.
I rarely ever add ice or rarely ever add water.
Yep. So I while you guys are sniffing and getting onto the maple syrup, I'm going to go ahead and kind of give you my insight on this without trying to skew your all's opinion too much. But, man, the maple syrup really comes out front on this nose. It's very nose forward. This one comes in at 108.2, so it's very soft, very subtle. This was a blend also of, I want to say it was 5 and 6 year old bourbons, and it was the Carl T blend. So that means it's a mixture of the 4 grain and the 3 grain. So that'll give you a little bit of insight as far as what you're drinking as far as that goes. So that means it's still going to be heavy rye, but there is some wheat that's mashed in on this thing as well.
So you said that was 60-20-20?
60-20-20 is their typical 3 grain mash build, and then their 4 grain mash build, I want to say, is like 60-12.
I thought it was 51-20-29.
You might be right. I think you might be right. Yeah.
Do you dare question the legend?
No, I don't. I don't dare question the legend because he probably gets out the Starlight more than I do.
I listened to a podcast and learned that somewhere.
You probably, like I said, my memory sometimes does not serve me very well. I'm not an elephant. We'll just put it that way. My wife will tell you I don't remember shit. So she said I'm lucky to remember my wallet. So for me, the nose is just, I mean, right off the bat, a lot of those, caramel sugar. I even almost get like a butterscotch with that maple syrup, flavor.
I think the butter up front, I was trying to put my finger on that. The maple definitely is, obviously maple finish, but it still has there's some other complexity or some smells that are coming through as well.
Yeah, it's almost like Werther's Original. Now Steven will know that, but you two young pups might not know what old Werther's Original is.
Every time I go to my grandmother's house, we'd always, that was the candy dish. You'd ask for jelly beans and all this other stuff. No, it's always those Werthers. Like even in the purse and everything in the car, cup tray, you name it.
It sounds like you may have grew up in
we call them
Indiana.
Grandma's Kisses is what we always call them. Werther's Originals and butterscotches. That shit was always sitting in their purses. So,
growing up, my great grandmother lived real close to my house, so I spent a lot of time there, and that was the same thing. She had those everywhere, and now that it's kind of bringing back some nostalgic kind of memories.
Am I getting you in the feels? Oh wait, shit! I think Lee just squirted a tear over there.
I like it.
When my grandfather died, my grandmother gave up smoking immediately and turned to a butterscotch candy addiction. And so the last 7 years of her life, there was butterscotch everywhere.
So my dad did the same thing, only he went to double mint gum. When my grandpa passed away, my dad was like, I'm going to quit smoking, because my grandpa had cancer for forever, but he chewed double mint gum. The funny thing is he walked around literally for a year with a pack of cigarettes and 3 packs of double mint gum in his front pocket and never smoked a cigarette after that time that he decided to quit. But he said he wanted it there as a crutch just in case he needed it. But after that, he got away.
We're kind of thinking about memories and some of the flavors here. I think you get the maple and then kind of think of that butter, almost like a butter pecan kind of. It reminds me of like a butter pecan ice cream.
Oh, I definitely
Kind of on the back end.
Yeah. I was going to say the pralines and cream.
Yeah.
It was just like, man, it's like, what is this?
Yeah, it's got some nuttiness to it for sure. But so I'm waiting. I'm waiting to get in and drink on this. As you can see, I've also tried this one a little bit, but
all right, I'm going in.
Go in deep. Steven's gotten the first taste there, and Steven, I know you're not a huge bourbon finish fan, but I gotta believe this is one that you probably are gonna somewhat like. But you give me your assessment.
This is good. It's certainly one of the better bourbon finishes I've ever had. What I like about it is it reminds me of pancakes.
Yeah, pancakes. I can see that.
And
it's definitely got some baking spice on the back end, especially on that flavor palette.
It's very soft and smooth.
Yep. And then, like I said, to me, it's not got a strong maple syrup taste, though. You just kind of get sweetness from it. Sweet and also in that complexity. It's actually this one actually tastes proof, actually maybe even a little overproof. When I drink it, it came in like, I was like, oh, this is like 110, 115. But when I looked at the bottle, it was only 108. So I was kind of shocked at how little proof it had based off the taste. And I think somehow the maple syrup probably accentuates the heat on this a little bit. So
I think that they did a really good job blending this, because that was I'm not a big bourbon finish guy, but it doesn't. I was anticipating off the kind of smell was that it would be real heavy on the finish up front, but it actually is very subtle.
Good deal. I'm going to put a little water in my second sip, and I don't think I actually tried it with water before, so that's going to open it up hopefully a little bit and see what it does to it.
Yeah, no, I think Starlight's doing great things with their finished stuff. I'd agree with you. It's not. I've had some maple finished bourbons that have been overwhelming. Just like it's like slap you in your face with like this sweetness, almost to where it overpowers the bourbon. This one, the subtleties with it make it really nice. You get some of those earth tones. So again, I'd like to know the mash bill on it, but like I get some of that the earthy notes on the very back side, but it's solid. It's a solid pour.
So the cool thing about Starlight too is their farm to table, right? Like everything that they distill is grown on their 1,300 acres. So their rye comes from their cover rye during the fall. So that way, when they're blending their rye and doing those type of things, that's what they're doing with it. And then the corn, obviously, grown and. Hell, I'd venture to say half the Kentucky distilleries are probably using Indiana corn for their bourbon, But
I have something close to my heart with Indiana corn. It's good, but I'm a Hoosier, so
yeah. For me, it's always been Silver Queen. That's what we grew up with, the old white corn in Southern Indiana, Silver Queen blend. That people, farmers, and anybody that grew up in that area, they probably know Silver Queen corn. So I'm kind of anxious to see if Starlight ever gets into that crazy stuff. I know they did. Just do some Bloody Butcher releases that they had done about 4 or 5 years ago. What Jephthah Creed, I think, is popular for the Bloody Butcher.
I think they kind of started it when they first, was it Shelby County or whatever, turned wet. When they turned wet, they started doing the Bloody Butcher corn bourbon finish or whatever.
That sounds about right. So a couple of drops of water, the maple syrup actually comes out a little bit. But man, it really, really, really dives into that pancake taste that you were talking about, Steven. It gives you a little bit more subtle flavor on the baking spice. It almost completely eliminates the rye. I'm picking up a lot more wheat now at this point when you add that water.
Yeah,
I think
that's that earth tone I think I was picking up on that initial one prior to that water.
Yep, but I feel like the wheat portion of it rather than the rye is coming out a lot more on that back end.
So I just added the water and starting to nose it, but just prior to doing that, I think that there was quite a bit of surprised that there was still some heat from it. Not near as much as the VDN, but still kind of the mouthfeel complexity of it. And I was surprised with. I'm going to nose this with a couple drops of water real quick.
So, Stephen, what do you think about on the water? You're getting a good little guzzle there going, so give me a little insight on it. It's not a bottle chug, but it was a nice little slip there.
I don't do baby chugs.
No, you sure do not do a baby chug.
I asked him one time, and he said, I'm 60, but I'm not going to tell his age, sorry, whatever. He doesn't have time for baby chugs.
That's right. He's in the tail light.
I actually feel more heat with the water than I did before. Not a lot, but it's just it changes.
I think the nose on it is kind of flat for me.
Yeah, adding water, the nose kind of went away.
Yeah.
I would agree with that. I'm going to say I still prefer this one neat, but it definitely offers some more complexity as far as the earthy tones that Nick had first spoke about. I think it really, really comes out, and then some of those baking spices start hitting a lot more. And I think that's probably what you're picking up on. I feel like I'm getting a little bit more cinnamon on the backside, especially with the water added.
Yeah, I think the finish or with the water on that, I am picking up a little bit more heat than without. But the finish on it, there's something there. I can't put my finger on what it is.
Can't put my finger on it, huh?
That's right.
That's what she said.
Well, it is Lee. It probably is what she said.
Hey, I'm just a Southern
If
Indiana.
it was my
degenerate.
wife, she'd definitely tell you that's what she said. Of course, I've been married so long, I don't even look both ways when I cross the street anymore, fellas.
So
That's what I have to look forward to.
So can these be bought at the distillery then?
So both of these actually sold out like day one or day two. I think day one, yeah, if I remember correctly. So I don't think you're going to find them, but I'm sure you can find somebody that will have some. I bought my fair share. I'll just put it that way. So if anybody's looking for a bottle, you could probably contact me. But
Do you know how many bottles they produced? What the yield was for each one?
so the maple syrup was actually a split barrel. They split that with a group out of Florida. So I think they only had about 100 bottles of it that they sold through the distillery. The rest of them went to a small group in Florida. The VDN, on the other hand, I think there was 230 because obviously with it being a blended barrel, you pretty much got the entire,
You filled it up to the top.
Exactly. So, and I think it only sat in there for, I think they said 14 weeks or something like that, like 3 or 4 months. So not a ton of time.
Yeah, no, I think the flavor kind of made it pop. It gets hard with those finishes. Letting it sit in there. Do you let it sit in longer, shorter? I mean, it's one of those. It's almost like roulette. It's like at what point is it too overpowering, and at what point do you not get enough of the flavor? But I think they did a good job on both of those.
So I'm telling you right now, when the Brazilian one hits the market, it's something special and unique, and it tastes, to me, it tastes outstanding, but it's going to be so much different than anything you've ever tried in your entire life. It's like drinking a cigar, and I don't know any other way of explaining it that way, but it's like if you put a bourbon sip in your mouth and like was chewing on a stogie at the same time.
Ben.
So it's like slap you in your face with tobacco.
Yes, like it is straight up like pipe tobacco, old school, like Churchill cigars. Like, I mean, it's the funkiest, weirdest thing I've ever tried. That Brazilian oak is what they call it. It's not even oak. I think it's actually in the maple family, but it's just in the nose on that thing. I mean, like, oh man, I literally, when it comes out, I'm gonna probably try to. I'm gonna see how many I can actually buy and just sit on them.
Well, what are the price points on these?
So these, I think, came in at $69.99 a piece and $72.99 a piece. So that's kind of where they came in at. So not crazy high, but definitely good stuff as far as that goes.
And you won't see these in stores at all. I mean, you only can get them at the distillery. Is that
So
right?
you will start seeing these in stores. They did do some other additional barrels. Now the question is will we see how many will we see local? And I think our podcast might actually be getting a VDN barrel. Like, I'm in the process of trying to negotiate that. If nothing else, I think we'll be able to split one. So hopefully that'll be a good opportunity for us. The maple syrup are way more limited because they work with a direct farm in I think it's Salem or something that they get their maple syrup from, and they didn't want to do that many of that much of their maple and bourbon. So it was one of those things that they have to find either another farmer to do that with, or things to that nature with whereas Starlight has their own hives for their farms themselves, but they don't have that much maple, so they source that through a small farm, I think, and like I said, I think it was in Salem.
Yeah, I think they do the Maple Syrup Festival every year.
Yeah, I think that's right. So that being said, we tried 2 great bottles, I think I would say today. Even Steven said, he got a finished bourbon that he didn't hate, so that's a plus.
Right. But I'll still take the rye.
He's going to take the rye. So let's do that then. If one of these, either one of these bottles came up at retail, which one would you buy first? Which one would you buy second? And then would you buy both?
I would buy the rye.
You would buy the rye? Okay.
I don't think I would buy the bourbon.
Gotcha. All right. Nick?
I'd probably lean more towards the rye, but I would likely buy both only because when you have family and friends that come out of town, you want to treat them to something that you can't get everywhere.
Right.
So with family up in like Wisconsin, Missouri, St. Louis, and area, they won't see this. So having something that's totally unique. Starlight's great. Honestly, if you have a chance to go out and just hang out at Starlight, just go out there and do it. And buy some
absolutely.
But I'd probably lean more towards the rye if I could only pick one. End of the day, I'd probably try to sneak both bottles into the bag before the wife caught me going out to the car.
Gotcha. Lee?
I think I'd go with the rye. I like both of them, but I don't like family very much, so I'm not going to share as Nick would. But no, no, I think they were both good. The rye was my favorite in the tasting that we did. So
it's a grand slam. All four of us agree that the rye is definitely the hit of the two, but we wouldn't kick the other one out of bed for eating crackers.
That's right.
That's right.
Good deal. So that's our review for the day. We got the Starlight VDN and the Starlight Maple Syrup. This is Scott, Lee, Nick, and Steve and Scott all signing off. Peace.